Tonight, Dan is back. So join us as we regroup and then talk about Zod's experience watching God's Not Dead 4. This is the return of Zadanza.
What's up, world? I'm back from the dead, back from the grave. I've risen 3 streams later, like our Lord and Savior, Jesus H. Christ. What's up? I'm here, Zod. How's it going? How's it feel to be part of the Zadanza again, and not just Zodza? Huh?
You know how they're always saying you need to put the Christ back in Christmas?
Yeah. Need to
Well, I think it's high time we put the Dan back in Zadanza.
That's what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen, NBs and friends. Am I completely well? No, but I'm better. Turns out, Zod, there's this thing called post-concussion syndrome. I didn't know about this, but it's basically like, hey, you know all the symptoms and stuff you have from your concussion that you thought went away? Just kidding, they're back again. And in my case, hit me even harder, or as just as hard. There was at least a day or two where I felt just as bad as the day of the accident, but I'm better, and I need to get back into this thing. It's been a month since I got hit by a drunk / high driver.
Would you say you're getting a crash course in concussions?
That's a good way to put it. That's a good pun to put on things. But yes, I'm here. I'm back. But we're gonna take it easy. We're gonna have a little slow ride. I'm not fully back. I'm getting up, but I've got like a what do you call it? I got like a little walker right now. My streaming walker, because it's been a minute since I've been in the seat, Zod. So I'm letting Zod drive today. He's driving this jalopy we call Zadanza. And I'm gonna stop talking now. Zod, how are you doing?
Oh, good. I'm just broken all the time because I'm old, but other than that, I'm fantastic.
Thank you. Sorry, I said thank you because I read somebody saying that my beard looks good, and thank you. You're the only person who ever says my beard looks good. See, I'm bad at I've already forgotten how to fucking do a stream, Zod. I've only been off for a few weeks, but that's what happens. You just kind of lose everything. Lose everything you take. And for those also asking, no, they did not find the person. Austin Police Department has, as far as I know, not done any follow-up investigation as to the perpetrator of my accident. So thanks.
This is starting to smell like a conspiracy.
Some people have, it's funny you say that, because on Truth Wanted specifically, there were several comments of people saying that, and unironically thinking that there was something happening to me behind the scenes of something was going on. I just hit my head real hard, guys. That's it. That's all it was. So anyway.
Are you on the record saying that you did not pay somebody to hit you so that you could?
So I could what? not turn my webcam on?
Whatever the conspiracy is, I guess.
Yeah, look, I don't know what the gain is. No, did not pay somebody. I don't need to pay anybody to hit me. Let me tell you.
I'm just really curious what the conspiracy is supposed to be, but I don't
know. People have
Truth Wanted. It's the conspiracy. What's that?
People have great imaginations. I'll tell you that.
Or they're just dumb and they say dumb things. Sometimes that happens too.
That's true too. Hey, it looks like we already got a super chat here from Andrew Sword, who gives $6.66, saying, "Glad to have you back, Zan. Zod, thanks for doing a video review of God's Not Dead. I have trouble with written reviews on account of being homeschooled." What is the correlation between written reviews and being homeschooled, Zod?
Before we get into the God's Not Dead thing, we have a couple things
which we are going to get to, by the way. We're going to talk about that. But we
are good and going to get to it.
Well, we're going to get.
But if you have any thoughts on how that video went, there was a lot to it. It was like 2.5 hours, but you know how they say the more you learn, you realize the less you know, or the less you realize you know. You know, even though that video went 2 hours and 15 minutes, the more you unpack that crazy, crazy movie, the more you realize you have more thoughts about it, and people give you comments, and
Yes.
that brings out more stuff. So, if any of you have questions or comments about the movie or the video, especially if you were homeschooled and you have thoughts, good or bad, about homeschool, you know, I
Yes.
had some people coming out of the woodwork and saying things like, uh, homeschooling was terrible for them. I have other people saying, well, wait, my homeschooling experience was good. You know,
Yeah.
whatever. You know, I had some really awesome comments from people saying it was a good video, except for your little SJW rant, unsubscribed. That was
Oh.
really cheered me up.
Boo. Boo. Here's what I'll say. I told this to Zod before he started streaming. I said, Zod, I think it's one of my favorite things you've ever produced. And of course, Zod immediately asked me, "Oh, why do you say that?" And I immediately realized it's because I got to see Zod in pain. And I think that brings me a level of joy that your regular content just doesn't give me. I mean, like, you are in pain sometimes when you look at video, but I got to see that in real time on your face. And I think that's why I love that video so much. So yeah, if you haven't checked it out, we are going to be talking about Zod's review of God's Not Dead that you watched not once, not twice, but 7 times.
7
Um,
times.
7 fucking times, Zod. I can't even commit to watching my favorite movies 7 times, and you watched that. So, uh, yeah,
You know,
SJW rant.
I'm a
What was
weird
that about?
atheist nerd who likes nitpicking things, you know? It's like
Yeah,
a new gift every time, kind of. SJW rant about what? Asks Black Cover 95.
yeah.
Um, it was we can get into it more as we get into it more, but basically about how the movie used race. The movie was very strategic about how it used minorities and ethnic characters and things like that. And I said in the video, if you're a giant conservative snowflake, I didn't put it that way, but if this kind of thing is going to offend you, move on along to Friday
Mhm,
or
mhm,
unsubscribe, whichever you
mhm,
feel like. And this
mhm.
person, I respect their decision, decided unsubscribe, and I'm cool with them being gone. So, you know,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, here's the thing too. If it's made, and by the way, like, God's Not Dead is made by an independent Christian film studio, but a film studio nonetheless. They pay attention to that stuff too. If you work in media of any kind of distributive capacity, they're thinking about that kind of thing. It's not like, oh, nobody's thinking about this until, it comes out. I mean, like, maybe they're bad at it. Maybe they don't give a shit. But like, big people in the big chairs, like, that's, I don't know. That's a conversation that comes up. It's not an SJW thing to talk about the racial disparity within a film. That's
yeah.
just it's just basic marketing. Like, I don't know,
Well,
but
and I won't get too far into it, but to explain this one thing, the big thing with race in the movie was not just that they had the characters.
yeah,
They did sprinkle a very strategic scattering of certain characters through the movie, and I'm all for representation. That's totally cool. So I'm not going to nitpick that. But what I noticed after I watched the movie way too many times was that every single one of these characters was basically used just to feed the movie's opinions through.
no, it
And
is a movie for white people,
yeah,
100%. Yeah, you yeah, I think you nailed that, to a
the
T. Yeah,
congressman basically, and I mean, I hate to say something that sounds offensive or whatever, but I think this is a common term. The 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 black congressman who basically was there to stand up for them and fight for Christian freedom and pretend that all the white characters had never heard a conservative opinion in their lives. I would say he basically bordered on, if not was, a magical black man character. Like
yeah,
that was that
or
was the
Uncle
role he
Tom.
was there to
Like
play.
do you think the people who make this movie, like, hypothetical commenter, do you think the people who make this movie don't know that? Do you think that this is just a coincidence that they hired a black man for this role? Like, absolutely not. Like, they absolutely know what they're doing when they do these things. It's part of the overall strategy for a movie like that. They know their audience. Like, they want to feel good about having the opinions they have, but some of the opinions they have they can't say because they're white. So you hire people of color to say it. Like, that's, it's just, it's, I don't know. It's very, basic stuff. But some people, they just think movies are made of magic and just don't have,
You
production
know,
processes. I don't know.
he just happened to be a black fella,
Just happened to be like that.
like a
Oh.
congressman from Texas, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Imagine if
I
yeah,
literally, I don't know if you caught it because it was only on screen for a second. I literally, in making this video, I looked up every congressman and senator from Texas and took their pictures and compiled them all and put them on the screen uh, when making
yeah.
that point because
No.
it's pretty,
No, it's
yeah,
true. Imagine Ted Cruz saying the things that are out there. It
yeah,
doesn't hit quite the same, does it?
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that was the big thing. That was my one of my biggest points in that thing was like all these opinions would sound way different if it came from with a southern drawl from a local white pastor like that.
yeah.
That's
And
just an undeniable fact, and it's core to how the movie
I
went.
I think it's a very basic observation. I'm surprised people would even take umbrage with that, to be but I don't know.
I'm not because I've been at this for a while.
Yeah, yeah. But, I like it. I hope you do more things like that, Zod. And again, it's purely for schadenfreude. I just like seeing you trying to wrap your head around things. It brings me
Cool.
joy. That was my favorite part. So
Well, one thing I'll announce this here for the first time, except I announced it, I guess, for the first time just to Dan before this started, but the first time publicly, I am going to try to do standard videos just talking with my face showing to the camera and working from an outline instead of reading a script in my weird robotic cadence and having the static
woo-hoo,
face and everything. So
look at this
I'm going
guy.
to try that a couple times and see how it goes because I feel like my conversation can flow a little more naturally if I do that and people generally seem to like it a lot better. So,
I like it. Zod. Look at this. Look at this man branching out. Who says you can't teach an old dog new tricks, huh? This guy
yeah.
out here doing some new stuff. Good for you, Zod. Good for you. I like that.
So, before we got digging into God's Not Dead for we are already at 6:13 and
Mhm.
you know, it's just a party a minute, but
We
before we
haven't
get
talked
into
about
it,
shit, but I'm okay with that. It's
yes.
all good for me.
We got to give everyone time to get in and settle into their seats.
Mhm.
Um,
I should clarify. It's 9:13 official Zadanza time. You're
oh,
working
sorry.
off of Alaskan clocks. We advertise in Central Time for this show, so we should be clear. It's 9:13 Zadanza zone
Oh,
time.
we do have a
ZDZ.
warning. Are
Are you
you
sure,
sure there
Zod?
are
Yeah.
consequences for exposing yourself to the
The
world?
world.
I'm
Yeah.
assuming that dash is to indicate saying it with the Prophet Azad attitude. Um, but yeah, I think the one consequence is going to be that I'm not going to be dealing with constant show your face coward. I don't can't take you seriously if you don't show your face. I'm not dealing with that every day, so
Yeah. Which
that'll
is
be
weird
kind of
because
cool.
like you have other videos on your channel showing your face, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I've done
Right? Yeah.
streams. I've revealed my face. I've been to
Yeah.
Faithless Forum. I did all that stuff. My favorite one, a person gave me, "Oh, show your face, coward," in a video where my thumbnail had my face on it. I'm like, dude, seriously, put some
That's
effort
funny.
into this.
Uh That's really good. Yeah, I made a decision very early on to show my face, and sometimes I'm like, should I regret this? But I'm okay. I'm still doing it. So
My thing has never been about hiding my face. It was purely so I could just read scripts easier. That was all it was. And
you
my,
say
my
that, but you read it with like a thing over your face. So how does that make it easier?
do you do you think I'm reading my script while
I'm
I'm standing
joking.
there?
I'm joking.
Oh,
That's
okay,
a joke.
okay,
That's sarcasm.
okay.
It would be
Um,
funny if you're in the booth, if you're just recording in front of your computer, like no cameras on, and you just wear a mask on your face. I just wanted to bring that mental image because I think that
yeah,
is pretty funny. Um,
that would be a funny thing to do, and it would sound very bad. Well, because I don't know, I guess never not picturing it, but I just take literally an orange hat and I pull it down all the way over my head, and I cut a little tiny eye hole in it, and that's what I look through so I can see myself on the
yeah,
monitor.
but
Anyway,
I imagine it's like a in my head it's like a skin tight like like one of those suits that you see the people use in movies to like be background characters on. It's like one of those just completely over your head. That's what I think of it as.
I tried one of those and it didn't work that well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
So, um, do you want me to grab a couple props real quick
Yeah, I want to see your
while we're
props.
on a tangent? All right, I'll be right back.
Oh shit. Okay, now it's Danza. Okay. What's up? Ask me anything. I'm here taking over the show because Zod's been doing such a let's give a props to Zod for taking over this show last couple times and doing it. Completely just not unprompted, but more just like, hey, do we still want to do this thing? Because I'm not feeling too hot. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And he got other people. So thanks to Zod for keeping the dream alive. But as of right now, I'm back. So I'm happy to be back. And here he is, folks, the man of the hour, the Zod to my Danza, Zadanza, Zod, prophet of.
Okay. Now, I'm not sure before I give up this whole thing. This is going to feel like a big change in my life because sitting there reading a script and then putting a hat over my head and doing this whole thing, that's been a big part of my life for like years. And so I might have some feelings about this.
Oh man.
But as part of saying goodbye to this whole process, I'll show you guys. So what I originally did is I have an orange hat. It's just like a safety construction hat. And I pull this all the way over my head, which I'm not going to do right this minute.
No, do it.
And I just
Wait,
took
no,
some-
do it though.
I'm not going to do it right now.
Do it for the fans. Zod, do it for the fans.
I'll do it at the end.
Do it for me?
Wait until the end of this video and you will
Okay.
see.
You,
Okay.
I want to. Are you gonna look like Mushmouth from Fat Albert?
Oh,
Because
maybe.
that's what I think. That's my.
But yeah, I'd
prediction.
pull this over my head, tuck it in. So that's why I always wear a thing with high, the
Or not Mushmouth. The other guy, Donald. Anyway, yeah, I'm listening. Sorry, distracted.
Oh, you're
ADHD.
good. So that hat's the main thing I'd use. Then I did have I had one of these green bodysuits. My son had actually gotten it for Halloween once, and then he didn't need it, so I started using it. And eventually, I tried using that, but the problem is you don't get this is a science keying out your face using a mask. But this tucks in really well and gives you a good round face if you wear a fleece with a high neck or whatever.
There it is.
This suit doesn't really do that. It just gives you this weird ill-defined thing, and that didn't work. So I tried cutting it off, and then I would just pull this over my head and had it pinned in the back. This is cut off the top of that whole green suit. And then that's where I would take that one little like black mask that I wore for a while that everyone thought it looked creepy in and put over that. And then I tried this, which is actually has the whole hole in it and everything like that. It just didn't work as well. So those, I don't know if that was at all entertaining, but you have that little glimpse into my life.
I was entertained. I got to learn about the movie magic, the process.
Yes.
Who is the man behind the mask? Well, he's right here, folks. Prophet is
So yeah, so I stand in front of a blue screen. I have that on. So then first I key out the blue, then I key out the orange, and
then you
key out the.
Nobody cared who I was before I put on the mask.
I don't know if
some
I
kind
came
of Star
through.
Trek thing.
That was Bane from.
I know it was. I was just being
Okay,
stupid.
gotcha.
That actually was a decent Bane too.
Thanks.
All right, so we're 20 minutes into the show. Have not said a word about God's Not Dead 4, except talking about the race of some of the characters. Before we get started, what we're going to start doing for our opening of the show is we're going to ask you all a question.
Oh yeah.
We're going to ask you guys for some feedback of something for you to talk about or share something funny with us or ask a question. We'll elicit different things all the time, but the opening to the show is going to be a little more interactive, and we won't dive right into content as much. And then we'll do content at a silly thing maybe later in the stream. So
yeah,
what we thought, just whipping something off the top of our heads, is in the spirit of God's Not Dead 4, we want you all to share with us your least favorite Christian movie, and then just a sentence or two of why, and we'll share a couple of them if we get a couple of them. So
yes,
try to pick something that's funny to share about, but try to maybe think of something that's a little unique, because like if everyone says God's not dead, then that wouldn't be very fun. So I don't know. Hopefully you all have a deep, rich, long experience of watching weird movies like I do. You know, I watched my kids and I used to have something called Bad Movie Night on Mondays, where we'd watch like God's Not Dead or The Case for Christ or that one with the chicken and the egg guy. So I'll find out if you guys have the rich culture in, you know, I don't know, the rich experience in Christian conspiracy movie cultures.
I used to watch bad movies with friends. That's when I got exposed to like The Room and stuff. And now that's like mainstream. So you know, it's not as cool to me anymore to like be into the whole bad movie thing. But in your defense, God's Not Dead is I genuinely believe everyone should watch God's Not Dead, whether you're an atheist Christian or don't give a shit about this whole debate, because it's genuinely funny to watch just of how bad it is. I think is like it to in my mind when I think of bad movies that are entertaining but
Yeah.
not like so bad where it's just unwatchable. Like it is the perfect bad movie. The
Yeah.
first one is they get very bad very quickly afterwards, and they're all bad. Don't get me wrong, but I really like God's Not Dead for that reason. It is my favorite bad Christian movie. So there's my answer to our little prompt.
Yeah. I tried God's Not Dead 2 expecting that same bad movie magic, and it was just
Doesn't have the energy. Can't do it.
yeah. Yeah, God's Not Dead. It's absolutely terrible. The dialogue is all barf, but they know how to pace it and they know how to they know how to like throw. It is a very well paced movie in terms of how they switch between scenes and kept the energy up. It was a manic, weird atheist stereotype energy, but it was an energy, and so that made it something to watch.
Yeah.
God's Not Dead 2, they stick you in a courtroom and barf essays at you, and that just was not enjoyable.
At least God's Not Dead has like an A and B plot and maybe a C plot. I don't think they even did that in the other movies, right? Like it's just not as good.
Yeah. So anyway, if you're sharing in the chat right now, that's great. Participate in the chat. But where we will see this is if you email us at zadanzashow@gmail.com, or maybe if you wanted to comment on this, I can scroll through the comments. I can't guarantee
web zone.
Yes. Leave a comment. You have a good Plinkett voice.
I'm a good voice actor.
You are
on our web zone.
How have you not done any of my cartoons?
I don't know. You haven't hired me. Get me on Fiverr, baby. I should make a Fiverr. That'd be great. Anyway.
I feel like the word hired means you're misunderstanding the situation.
Oh no, my work is good enough to be paid for. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it has to be a lot. I'm just saying $5.
I'll give you 2% on the back end.
2% on the back end. You'll give me some of the exploit the generous revenue stream that Danza gives us. Yeah, 100%.
You know, that was the trick. I always told people I feel bad, but there's really not enough money in one video to pay people to do voices. And and there's so much work that goes on in producing cartoons. Or
I obviously would never ask Zod to pay me to do anything. Well, that's not true. You would have to pay me to do something, but not for your videos. I would do anything for your videos, to be honest.
You're taking 50% on the back end for being on this.
Yeah, that's true. But this is a co-project, okay? This isn't. Listen, I know people write to us like Zod is in control of this thing, and you know what? He does control a lot of things. But this is a co-project, baby. Okay, I know he's got top billing in the name, but that's purely for pun-related reasons. That's it.
It's because Dan Zadza would just sound stupid.
Dan Zadza doesn't make sense. It's not a thing. Zadanza. Now that's a thing. You know.
Limited Light said more subplots than ID4.
What's ID4?
I'm not sure exactly what that means.
Yeah. I don't know. Limited Light. Follow up with that, please.
Jason Sherwood.
Sex worker. Yeah, what of it, Jason? You want some of this? I charge you extra, dog. Okay. Anyway.
All right. Let's just hope the
over sex work that I don't do.
Let's hope the YouTube bots don't know how to spot solicitation.
It's a crazy show.
All right. Anyway,
Was this stream always like this? I don't remember. Maybe my head injury's catching up to me, but I thought we did things differently.
We used to run a tight ship,
Oh,
but then you hit your head, and I kept getting older, and sorry guys, it only gets worse from here.
Oh God! Hey, let's talk. Speaking of God, let's talk about God's Not Dead 4, Zod.
Yes.
On a
So,
scale of one,
all of you guys
hold on, 1 to 10.
Okay. Okay.
What would you give it?
Between 1 to 10?
Yeah, 1 to 10.
I would give it a 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So 3 in terms of watchability and overall movie quality. There are definitely things that could be way more tedious to watch. And it's hard to judge watchability because I have that hate watching quality where I find it interesting to go through and pick through things to talk about. So that does
You're a hater.
affect my opinion.
You are a natural born hater.
But it had compared. Let's compare it to God's Not Dead 2.
Okay.
It had a little bit. It did not have the God's Not Dead 1 energy by any means, but it did not fall into the God's Not Dead 2 trap of being quite as tedious and changing the subject and simply, parking on a court case. It was a little more something to watch. As terms of messaging goes, it's like negative infinity. Like God's Not Dead. My biggest problem with God's Not Dead 4, and I said it to the end. I said it at the end. If you watched to the end, you saw it. The big thing was it wasn't just a persecution movie. This felt very much like an angry persecution Christian movie that belongs in a post-January 6th QAnon type world. Yes. And felt a little bit like a call to action and not a good one. So
yes. And by the way, can I say this too? You are very good in your videos, Zod, you're very politically neutral, I would say, in your videos. More than a lot of people in our space. I think that, well, I say politically neutral. You're very good at focusing on the topic at hand without going into other areas in which your opinion may be reflected. This is a good movie to not do that with, because you are absolutely right. This was a post January 6th vibe to this video. This is the result of very specific political events in the United States. If the Trump presidency and its fallout was not a thing, God's Not Dead 4 would not be what it is. Absolutely. And I think it's good that you point out, and not a social justice thing at all.
Yeah.
Pointing out that kind of stuff to it.
Yeah. I lean I'm a hard leftist. I'm, basically not exactly communist.
He's a you're a neo-Maoist. You're constantly talking about how the Maoist regime was perfect and had no wrongs. I've heard you numerous times say this. Yeah.
For those who know the conversation about what a leftist versus a liberal is, and aside using leftist as an insult as they do on the right, I'm definitely a leftist, not a liberal. I'm pretty hard in that direction. The reason that doesn't come through in a lot of my videos, and I kind of hate it, is number one, you kind of have to stay on one track on YouTube. That's just necessary.
Sure.
And it's not to garner views. I do a lot of things. Like, I knew this last video would not get a lot of views simply because of the length and because it was something different. I've done a lot of videos that I know won't get prime views, but you at least have to maintain some kind of traction in the algorithm, or else no matter how good your message is and how important you feel like it is, nobody's going to end up watching it. And you don't want that. Also, one other thing, as much as I want to tell all the people who lean more right and get angry about that, screw yourselves and go unsubscribe, which that's kind of my attitude. Yeah. I also want to have a little bit of understanding that we're all coming out of the faith, and sometimes you shed your ideologies by degree. And so I want to have a conversation that lets them ease in and doesn't feel so unfriendly that if they're taking baby steps, I slam the door in their face and then they don't at least move in the right direction. So I think having a soft touch with politics to some degree, while undermining that by attacking the foundations of how you build Christian ideology, which I think is a lot of the same basis of how you build regressive ideologies. You can kind of take a backdoor approach and not just hit them in the face with politics, and kind of have a better result that way. That's my opinion,
Yes.
anyway.
No, I fully agree with you, and I try for years. I've tried to do the same thing where it's like I would like to be as on point with whatever subject I'm talking about as possible. Because
Mhm.
if this video that's going out, if it's a clip of me talking or whatever, is going out to somebody who's deconstructing, I want it to be a piecemeal thing.
Yeah,
You put too many radically different ideas than what people are used to in front of them. That's going to make the message muddled a little bit because they're going to be thinking about a lot of different things. And there's some character accusations that come into that too. I got to say, I'm not perfect about it. I'm definitely bad about it sometimes, but I do actively try. You're better about it than me because your videos are scripted. For me, most of my content is live. So sometimes I just say what's on my mind right in that moment. But
yeah,
it is also, I think, good to be honest about where your ideas are coming from, and sometimes that means in correlation with other ideas. Like you can,
yeah,
again, like you cannot view God's Not Dead 4 without understanding the political climate that created it, which is
yeah.
why it's important to talk about that context, but yeah, yeah.
Well, and you also need to, without harping on it too much,
Mhm.
you need to take a hard line on certain things so that the rest of your
Yes,
audience or other members of your audience feel like your viewing area is a safe place to be, and
yes,
that you're encouraging safe
also true,
behavior from other people. Not that there's an
also true.
immediate physical danger, but they can feel that viscerally around them, and
It
they
is
live with
building
it throughout
trust.
their lives.
I am
What's that?
inherently going to trust a YouTuber who has more in common with me politically than
Yeah.
maybe any other factor, honestly. I mean, that's a big, big, big point of contention for me in my current phase of life. So yeah, it's true.
Yeah, if something about trans people come up, I will hit it hard, even
Yeah.
knowing that some people in my audience, that's one of the things I have a hard line on.
Mhm.
And anything along those lines, that's just the one that people feel a lot more free to be shitty about these days, and so that's one that comes up. If it happened to be something about minorities or
Right.
simply,
Right.
but
True.
anyway,
Anyway,
so so now we're at the 33-minute mark. Um, this is all
hey,
good though, we're letting it
you
fly,
gotta you
and
gotta relax, son.
that's
Okay,
right.
just go with the flow here. Okay, that's this is an exercise in patience, son. You know.
I'm saying it in a funny way that we're just making a lot of good
Okay. All right.
conversation. The
Okay.
the content is creating itself tonight. What more could you ask for?
That's the intention. That's what this should be in my eyes.
Exactly.
But anyway, you got but the reason why you're pointing out the time, I believe, is because you actually have some clips you want to show, right?
Oh, I'm not going to show clips. That
Okay,
would be
okay,
kind
okay.
of weird, but
Okay.
I have. So here's kind of what's on the docket. Number one, remember, tell us your least favorite Christian movie
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
in the comments to this, or I really want to train people to email us, thedanzashow@gmail.com. I don't know why I said that, but I want people to know that that's there. So,
Yeah.
and by the way, remind me, Dan, or audience, if we get to the end and forget, I have something I want to show that somebody sent us by email, and
Okay.
we'll try to get to that.
And,
So,
and you're gonna put the mask on your face, right?
oh, that's right. You're not
That's
going to let me
right.
get away with forgetting that, aren't you?
Not gonna happen.
So, if any of you have questions or comments or anything further about the movie, um, you can share that. Dan, I think I'd like to let you just ask questions or clarifications, and then I do have a few things that I have further thoughts on that we could kind of chat about. I just wanted to kind of be a hangout and BS thing. So,
Well, okay, so you made a conscious first of all, you're a busy guy. I know you. You're a busy guy. You had
yeah,
some free time and you decided, you know what's a good use of the limited time I have on this earth? I'm going to watch a god awful fucking movie 7 times in a row. You don't get that time back. Like, that's a
that's
dozen
true.
hours of and that's just watching it, and then you're like, "Oh, you gotta record yourself, you gotta put a video." Did you do it for the love of the game, Zod? Was it for YouTube? Was it for those sweet, sweet views? What's the motivation behind this passion project?
It was for the love of the game. This was going to be a wild card with views. It
Mm,
started like fraction of a fraction of my lowest video. Now it's climbed up to 7th of my last 10, my top 10. I knew this was not going to be a big moneymaker or a big view generator. But yeah, love of the game is the big thing. I'm a very creative person, and sometimes I need to do my standard responses to feed the algorithm, but sometimes I just get this itch in my mind to do something and I just need to do it. And watching this repeatedly and talking about it was experimental and different, but I just felt like it was going to be so fun and so interesting that I just had to do it. So
Yeah. I
that's why.
am glad. I'm glad for
And
that.
yeah, when my wife's not home, my time is usually spent between work, YouTubing, and then various members of my family or all grouped together, whatever. When my wife's not home, there's just these gaps in my day. It's like I get really antsy. You can probably tell I'm a high energy person as far as, create. Well, I don't know if it comes off. I probably come off as a quiet, a little bit calm person, maybe, but when behind the scenes, I'm like manic as terms of churning out ideas and trying to think of things. So I don't sit still well. So my wife's gone. Something was going to fill that time, and I thought this was a good candidate. So I
I
hope that
would have
answers
just
your
played video
question, sir.
games, but you do use it, and I respect the hustle. Okay, it's a good idea for a project, and clearly it's paying off. So
I'll get bored if I play video games that long. I used to be able to sit and play video games all day long, and now I get antsy. Like I can play Tears of the Kingdom for like an hour and a half, especially if my son's there with me talking to me and stuff. But I don't know. It just doesn't.
no, I get
don't
that.
know.
I get that. You made something. You made a good product for the world to enjoy, which I appreciate.
Zach W. Parker said, "And the orange mask freaks out his wife," which that is actually true. She is so freaked out by me when I wear that mask and do things. She doesn't even want to be in the room when I'm doing it.
Okay, so it's the Emmys. Sorry, no, wait, is it the Emmys? Okay, it's the Emmys, Zod, and
Mhm.
God's Not Dead 4 has been nominated. What has
Okay.
God's Not Dead 4 been nominated for? Which category? You have to pick. You are hosting the next Emmys. They say, "Hey, we got to put this one in." What would you give it? What category does it get? Best
Does it
actor,
have to
best
be
motion picture?
does it have to be a real category?
I was thinking real category, but if you have
Okay.
a different category, you know,
Boy, this is hard. This is
I'm giving you a real toughie here.
I'd say of all the various aspects of this film, filmography, and that they generally pointed the cameras in the right direction.
Yeah, that's what filmography primarily consists of, is
Yeah.
pointing the camera at the right direction. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Cinematography. Okay. All right. What
Yeah,
okay, so
they had a lot of the competent building blocks. Best love story, if that's a category.
best love story? Okay. Yeah.
The sheltered homeschool
Definitely
kid
not a
who
category, but okay, sure.
the sheltered homeschool kid who thinks he has a date because a girl asked him to bring him something that she lost, and he keeps
That is
falling down.
awesome. You know what? It did make me realize that there's not a lot of movies about homeschool kids, at least that I'm not aware of. And and listen, I'm telling you, these people that make these movies, they do the market research. Okay, that's fucking brilliant. You know how many homeschool kids would love a plot like that? If I was homeschooled, I would love that. That's great. They knew what they were doing with that. It's true.
So we have purple rhymes with orange. Of everyone in that movie, who was the worst actor?
Yeah, who's the worst? That was my follow-up question, which was if we were doing like the Razzies instead, what would you say is the worst aspect of the movie? Which is probably easier to answer. But yeah, we'll go with actor first.
That's a hard one too. I'm not sure she was the worst actor. My instinct tells me the homeschool mom, who is also the twangy singer who sings the song in the middle of it. But I want to say the one I called Poor Mom, or Taylor, who works at a restaurant and ends up being a NASA engineer. She just had a couple very unintentionally hilarious lines because of delivery and because of how over serious and syrupy her character was. that stuck out to me. So I
She
don't
was
know that
like,
she's actually.
yeah, you think she's a real actress? Because I got the vibe that that was the first film she's ever been in, ever.
It could have been. I'm not sure. Now I want to look it up.
Or Hallmark, maybe. Hallmark movies. I would love to be in a Hallmark movie, by the way. If
You
any of
would.
you guys work for the Hallmark channel, put me in as an extra. Even an extra, I'll do it.
I don't know exactly what you're wearing, but like I can picture you in a flannel shirt, seeing you wear
This
that.
is a hoodie with a flannel print on it, which is one of my
Okay.
favorite hoodies. But yeah, me
So
in a flannel shirt
I could see you, tall flannel shirt. I could see you being like the
with my
small town guy that the
my
big city
beard.
girl comes and eventually falls in love with.
I'm
You
gonna
know?
steal some city girls' hearts, dude, with my
That's
lumberjack
right.
arms. It's
And
gonna be
your Eagle
awesome.
Scout
Well,
status.
my Eagle Scout status, yeah. Yeah, nothing has ever signaled to a woman that I am an attractive catch more than when I tell them that I am an Eagle Scout. That's a fact. Absolutely.
We have Drew Harrison saying, "Is that all my brother learned in film school? How to point the camera in the right direction? He went to 4 years of school for that."
Yeah, that's it.
I know that filmography is way more complicated than that. Photography is a very technically complicated thing. I was just joking about trying to find
Oh
something
yeah.
that the movie did most competently. Um,
I used to,
is
I used to razz when I was a younger person. I used to make fun of people who do YouTube and stuff full time because I was like, that's not a job, that's not a real thing. And now that I have friends who do it full time and also do stuff on the side, yeah, it is a full time. I mean, not okay. Some people have an easier time making their content than others. I'll grant you that. But for a lot of people, yeah, it's a lot of time investment just to learn how to do it good. Even so, yeah, definitely real.
and it's I don't know if any of you watch Willem H. Patrick H. Willems. Um, he talks about movies and stuff like that, but he talked about how everything's content now, and
Mhm.
he did a really good job describing the grind of YouTubing or making any kind of content,
Yeah,
because they build it to where you never create something and be like, oh, that's good, and everybody watches and rewatches it. You're always hustling to make the next thing as fast as you can,
yeah,
and it's meant to be burned through and everyone go to the next thing.
it is.
And so aside from the hard work of just producing anything, it's such a grind. And I really love doing it, but it is to stay on target and to have any level of success and to get any traction in the algorithm. It takes so much consistent work. If you're not willing to make it a part of your
Yeah.
almost daily life, you're never going to make it.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the reasons why I've had several people in my life ask me if I've ever considered doing this stuff full time. And this stuff already takes up a lot of my time doing it not as my job, like I don't know. There's another level of pressure there that maybe one day I would do, but I'm not in a point in my life where I think I could do it. I think I would get burned out, honestly. And then I wouldn't like it as much. So I don't know. It's difficult.
So I've been doing some research as we talk.
Mhm.
Poor Mom was in 1883.
Okay. A period
Something called
drama.
something called Run Sweetheart.
Oh.
Insidious: The Last Key.
She was in Insidious? Oh, like a crazy Insidious sequel. That's crazy. Okay. All right. Okay. She's got some acting chops. Okay. She's got a history. That's good.
Metaphor Apocalypse, and wait, NCIS since 2003? That means she's like a regular character, right?
Or maybe she's been an extra.
But it says since 2003.
She's a named character.
I don't know that she's named. I'm not going to dig that far into it because I don't want to. But yeah,
Okay.
but that's okay. So I guess in spite of her performance, she's an actress. Sometimes it might just be the prequel problem. No matter what actor you are, what are you going to do with that material?
Yeah.
But anyway,
Here's a good one
Shivers
from
question.
Shivers. Yeah.
Has anyone involved with God's Not Dead 4 contacted you? No, I don't think they're ever going to notice me or care. YouTube is filthy with God's Not Dead rebuttals and riffs and everything.
Right. Right. And you gotta understand too, one, there's NDAs involved with stuff like this, but also I guarantee you there's people who made Not Dead 4 that know that it's garbage too, and
Oh
just like
yeah.
they don't care. Like it's a job. They showed up. Their job that day was literally point the camera at the thing that the director tells you to point, and then maybe they send files from the footage. Like there's a lot of people that I don't know. It's just like part of their day job. They don't give a shit.
That's one thing that always goes through your head when you're watching a God's Not Dead or any of these Christian
Yeah.
movies. They have a lot of like Hallmark level actors or these people you kind of recognize from a few shows here and there, and then they have like real people from like back in the day who are now total has-beens, and you're always wondering who actually believes this stuff and is there for the cause, and who's just there for whatever meager paycheck they get out of it.
Guarantee you a lot of it's probably more money than you think. And like
Yeah.
you talk about this with like Alex Jones's production company. Alex Jones has free speech systems. A lot of them don't give a shit about the stuff he says. They're there because it's contract labor and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
Anyway,
won't name any, but I've looked up a couple characters, just wondering if I'd seen them in other things. And you see some of the stuff they were in or some of their publicity photos. I'm like, this does not look like wholesome Christian
Yeah.
stereotypes. So
yeah, for sure.
how many Christians, Zach W. Parker asks, are aware the persecution is fear mongering BS?
Hmm.
I would say a fair number of them actually do. I don't know if it's as many as I'd like. There's definitely way too many people buying into it, but I know especially in this period, Trump and the MAGA movement, all the conspiracy theories and stuff, they've freaked out. A lot of the anti-vax has been a big thing. They've freaked out a lot of Christians, and I know a lot who are not super happy with where that branch of Christianity is right now. So I think
When
there is.
Yo, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. My added comment was just going to be when God's Not Dead first came out and was in theaters, the most hardcore people I knew were unironically sending text messages and stuff because it tells you at the end of that movie, oh, send God's Not Dead to 4 of your friends or whatever, like a fucking spam email from the 90s. And they were really into it. I don't think those people even know that God's Not Dead 4 exists, right? It has to be like a smaller subset.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think there's Christians that aren't even aware that this kind of stuff is even out there, let alone to have an opinion on it, right?
Yeah. That's where it's the same like with us. Like nobody unless you're within a little niche, nobody's gonna have the slightest idea who we are.
Yeah.
God's Not Dead to a much it's a lot bigger than us, but it still is kind
This
of a niche
the
thing for a very niche
sentiment is
audience.
the sentiment is bigger for sure. Like this is
Yeah.
a product of a larger cultural issue, absolutely. But this specific
Yeah.
piece of film, yeah, no, I don't think anybody's.
Well, and I don't know how much streaming and everything impacts the numbers, but I mentioned at the end, this made $1 million. Like,
Yeah.
God's Not Dead the franchise was already going way downhill. This is even a fraction of God's Not Dead 3, I believe. So that's kind of encouraging in my
And you
mind.
did I don't think you said the budget of the movie in your video, right?
I don't
I don't think
remember.
you did. I mean,
I
$1
think
million is probably, I would imagine, below what they would want, but I don't know.
But it's hard to judge with like this kind of Christian cause based stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
They probably don't have it all
because
public anyway. So
I think they double dip on their money making a lot. I think they make legitimately they make a lot of money off of people who invest for the cause, and then they make money off their audience, and then they brag about how much money they made on how small a budget. Like
and then you
God's
can
Not
write
Dead
a
1,
lot of it off too.
yeah, and God's Not Dead 1, they said like we had this budget of only a couple $1 million and we made 60 some million, blah 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 blah, and then they turn around and tell the same story with God's Not Dead 2. It's like if you made $64 million in the first one, you can't talk about how poor you were going into the second one and only had a
Yeah.
budget, $5 million.
That's
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. 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 I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe this was a big deal for the folks who have a subscription to fucking Christian watch movies, christianmovie.com, whatever. I don't know. But
Well, and there is the PureFlix streaming service,
Pureflix,
so
that's what I mean. Yeah,
maybe this helped prop up the PureFlix.
that's what was this a PureFlix like top billing? That's what I'm saying. Was this like when you log into Netflix shows you the big stuff. This must have been the big thing when it came out on
Yeah.
PureFlix, right? Like the banner movie for the month.
But I can't even imagine a lot of people want to watch PureFlix.
PureFlix
Like-
and chill. Someone said PureFlix.
Yeah, I saw that too.
That's awesome. Oh, listen. God. Okay, future is a dance idea. We together pay and make a Christian Mingle account that we follow up on each week and see who we can like catfish. And in our description of who we are, we have to, or like what we're looking for, we have to put PureFlix and chill. 100%. Dude, can you imagine?
Oh my gosh. That would be something.
I would love that. That's a goal. That's a Patreon goal right there. We make a Christian. We don't fuck it. It doesn't have to be a goal. I just want to do it. We use that's a good use of the Zidans of money, I think. But
I had to scroll back and find Phelan DeVello. This is the thing I was referring to when I said I had something to show at the end from email. I believe this. Tell me if I'm wrong, Phelan, but I believe you're the person probably who sent me the picture of the Fashion of the Christ. They found a Fashion of the. It's not named the Fashion of the Christ, but it's basically a Fashion of the Christ style Jesus dress up thing. So,
did you show this to me? I don't remember this.
it's in the email, so you could go look if you want.
I
but
should
I
go
can bring
look
it
at
up
the
on
show
screen.
email. I have not caught up on the show email in a little bit. So maybe that's for me to look at.
Would you object to us, Phelan, bringing up the email on a shared screen?
Yeah, let us know if
any...
that's cool. Because we don't want to show off people's emails. Well, actually, maybe we do want to show. If we don't show people's names, I don't think that's.
I'll just snip the. I'll just.
The problem
snip the
is
pictures.
we've identified Phelan now. Phelan says go for it, so we're good.
All right.
But while you're pulling that up, there a lot of film. I don't know. I don't work in the industry. I don't know the ins and outs of it. But a lot of films like God's Not Dead, if they fail to meet expected projected revenues that they set off, with whatever filings they do, like they can write it off as a film product failure and get rebates on that depending on the state that they produce the movies and stuff. So like I would not be surprised if God's Not Dead 4 got that sort of treatment based on the numbers they're looking at here. But yeah.
Oh, I'm sure they squeeze whatever they can manipulate out of
Yeah.
these things from all different directions. It's like an apologist YouTube channel. No matter, with very few exceptions, no matter how big your channel is, if you're an apologist, nobody watches it.
Yeah.
There's like, how many of them have 100,000 subscribers and like 2,000 people watch their videos? It's because people are supporting the cause. So they raise a lot of money, not from their viewers, but from all the people who are there to support the cause. And I think that's how a lot of these movies at least partially get funded too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Did you find it?
We're gonna
Ugh,
I was gonna share it at the end, but let's just do this now. It came up. Share screen.
Someone said, I'm still waiting on Eric Hoven to film Night of the Creation Museum 3, Secret of the Empty Tomb. That's awesome. They should do a Night at the Creation Museum. You know that's a reference to, Zod. Your face looks confused.
Oh, I'm confused. Oh, here we are. I couldn't find the one. Yeah, Night at the Creation Museum. Yeah, that was something. That guy is so clever.
No, I mean, did he? Oh, here we go. Oh, I have not seen this. What would Jesus wear? Jesus of Nazareth mix and match magnetic wardrobe.
I like how he has the. Let's see if I can. No, I can't improve the size of this. I don't think.
There's no way that's real. It's got to be a shop job, right?
They said they found this in a store.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my
That's
god, that's awesome. I
I
would
lo-
buy
I love
that.
how,
Did you buy it?
I love how he has the heart tie-dye shirt. And then here
Oh my god, that's amazing. Oh,
there's
I would buy
Jesus.
that in a heartbeat. Absolutely. If I saw that at Goodwill or something, yes, that's coming home.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
He's he's dressed in like a tracksuit or something. It has the hammer. This even incorporates uncrucify your Lord, it looks like. They got the hammer, they got the cross.
That's awesome. See,
They
and people
even
would
got
take offense to that, but like, what was Jesus? You think Jesus was rocking like what Yeezy? Like, what do you think Jesus was doing? He wasn't wearing Louis Vuitton. He was wearing robes, which are the equivalent of tracksuits today, I guess. I don't know.
this is like the gift that keeps on giving the longer you look at it.
Oh yeah,
But
I see a
JC,
boombox there.
they have a they have a Pope hat, they have a Jesus sombrero,
That's awesome.
they have a sheep pajamas, I think.
Somebody asked, "Is that Obvious Plant?" I wondered that too. If you're not familiar, there's a guy that goes by Obvious Plant that makes fake stuff like this. But as far as I know, Obvious Plant, all of his stuff is like Photoshop stuff, and apparently this is like a real thing. Also, Obvious Plant always has his logo on his stuff, so I don't think this is Obvious Plant. That looks real.
Yeah, it's obviously made for a joke. I don't think this is like a sincere Christian
Yeah,
product, but it's
that's
pretty
good
funny.
though.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us.
I shouldn't be yawning on stream. That's very uncouth.
Yeah.
What's happening?
So
Go away
just
for
a
like a
fun
month.
little
And
just a fun little thing that I'm curious to throw out there. I got a lot of comments telling me that I'm not even going to say it right now. I mispronounced the name of the acronym for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Did anybody else think I said that funny?
I watched
Like a
the
ton.
video. I don't think you said it funny. Did you say it funny?
I got,
Wait, say it right now.
I got multiple independent comments saying, "Well, you pronounce it like the island." I would say Nassau.
Oh yeah. Okay. Wait. Now, yeah. You know what?
Okay.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, that's wrong. Zod, you're wrong. Nassau,
How do you say it?
NASA,
NASA.
NASA. And I'm from Texas, where NASA is
Okay,
actually
yeah.
located. So, well, at least the Houston Space Center is. But
I have
yeah,
a you did say that weird. Yes,
you
it
know,
sounded like you said Nassau.
I don't know how I didn't notice that, but you're right. You do say it weird. You just
We
said it
do have
right now,
one
and I noticed
correct
it.
person. We do
Maybe
have one
'cause you were
correct person who said, no, you sounded normal. Sorry,
No,
go ahead.
you guys are all wrong. Maybe because you were saying other sentences and it didn't. I wasn't thinking about it, but you saying it just now, yeah, absolutely, yeah, it is kind of fucked. It sounds like
In
Nassau.
fairness, I have a lot of family from Alabama, and some of them actually worked at Redstone. And so, maybe I picked up from them. I go down to Nassau.
Nassau. Damn, son, you got that all the way from Nassau. That's
Both
crazy.
are right. Both are right. I pronounce it Zod's way myself.
No,
Thank
you're
you.
actually wrong. I'm the judge, jury, and executioner on this case, and I'm saying guilty. That is fucking wrong, Zod. Nassau, get out of
Okay.
here. I'm being mean today. I'm sorry,
You
but
are.
yeah,
I don't care.
that head
I'm mean all the
injury.
time.
They just made me a mean. What if
That's gonna be an
I?
excuse for everything.
This is the thing, right? It's like I don't know what the long-term effects of this will be. Like maybe I do have a change in personality, and that'd be really sad. Like us joking about it right now. Like long term, I'm just different, but I seem to be okay. I don't know.
You know, at
Man.
my age, within a couple of weeks, I'm going to be watching that saying, "Who is that man?"
Stop. Stop, dude. Stop. Oh my god. You're not that
So,
old, God.
do you want me to just run? Do you want me to just run through a few extra observations? Give some bonus content to the people.
This is the behind the scenes director's footage cut of the God's Not Dead for movie watching spree that you went on. I want to hear all the deets because I'm presuming everybody has seen the video here. If you haven't, it's a required watch this time. And we're not going to
Yeah.
show it here because you should watch Zod's video so that he can get that sweet, sweet YouTube ad revenue.
That's right.
So yeah, Zod, tell us about the making of this.
They aren't all about the making, but there are a couple. There's a various simple things.
Okay.
Number one thing that I got a lot of comments about that I absolutely deserved. I said something about if 1 in 3 out of a group of people own slaves, that would tell you about those people. I had calculated it, and it came to 1.23. No, it came toward 2.3 out of 10 or something like that. And I misspoke. But then I went and put a little printed correction on screen that said 1 out of 2.3, which only makes it worse when it's supposed to be 2.3 out of 10.
Yeah.
So people rightly called me out for both of those things. So no, 1 out of, 1/3 or close to half of the founding fathers didn't own slaves, depending on how you count founding fathers. If you count it as presidents, then they almost all did.
Yeah.
But yes, you win that battle. Only 23% of that group of people owned human beings. So I'm sure that was just a stand-up group of guys.
Yeah.
To be fair, most people weren't like questioning my main point. They were just correcting my math, which they were totally right to do.
The sentiment still holds though.
Yeah.
They weren't really thinking about the slaves when they got that whole constitution thing together, I don't think that
really
on their
weren't.
minds.
I mean,
it was on their minds, but for different reasons.
You take a group of people today who are going to draft up an organization's charter or constitution or whatever. 23% of them own other people. The rest aren't vocally like kicking them out or shouting at them about it or something like that. That's probably not a great group of people. I'm sorry. But it was okay because in the movie a black guy said it. So
Right.
Sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Oh no, nothing. It's just the slavery thing is interesting because every time I brought it up on the show or on Truth Wanted specifically, the counterpoint I always get is, okay, but Dan, there are so many abolitionists. I mean, there's so many people that were Christian and dedicated their abolitionism and will claim that their abolitionism is inspired through Christianity. And yes, that is 100% true. How many people said that their slave owning was inspired by Christianity? Equally as many, if not more.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the point. Is the book tells a lot of things, and a lot of people get different interpretations out of it. Christianity is a fluid religion, as traditional as people pretend to make it. It has always been subject to the cultural context of its times. For its solubility with the general consensus of morality, right? And the general consensus of morality at the time thought that it was okay to do that. A lot of people thought it was okay, even though that wouldn't fly today. So it doesn't matter. Christianity, you can still make an extremely strong case, in my point of view, that Christianity definitely is, at least if anything, okay with the idea of owning other human beings. If not,
the Bible definitely is
virtuous. Yeah.
From a purely biblical perspective, the slave owners had the better argument. There's no denying that.
No, 100%. Yeah.
But even if you want to take all that away, that abolition argument is really stupid. You can say those were the true Christians, but the best you can say for Christianity is that it took it over 1,800 years to start arguing with itself over whether owning humans is wrong. I don't think that's a ringing endorsement of a religion. That's just me.
And to be fair, are there Christians who from the very beginning who probably weren't about slavery and were probably in the minority? Absolutely. But they were in the minority. And that has been the case for most of Christianity's history. So anyway. Yep. Slavery. It reminds me of that bit. What's that? Wonder Chosen. You ever seen Wonder Chosen, where they're like, doing the kids song, talking about slaves, and they're like, slaves. They built the pyramid. Slaves.
No, what is that? Was that done ironically or something?
Yeah, it was done ironically. It was just like this little 30-second kid song celebrating slaves, and it's just really.
Oh, interesting. Huh.
They didn't actually build slaves. Didn't build the pyramids, by the way. That was also contract labor. But again,
Yeah.
that's how it's just how the
Um,
song goes.
So Dan, you've done some kind of educational-ish work, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But
Do you
you're
know anything
talking about
about?
like non-ironically, yes. Like in my
Yeah,
real
yeah,
life profession, yes. I've worked
yeah.
in the field of education, yes.
Sorry, did I just dox you?
No, it's just like you have to clarify because it sounds like you're making a joke, but you're not joking. I have worked in the you qualified my previous career in the industry of education, yes.
Yes. And I used to be a teacher and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
was just curious. You worked more recently in it. Are you familiar at all with Common Core?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Very familiar with Common Core curriculum and standards.
So, what is? I don't know how much you picked up about how the movie represented Common Core. I don't think that's something I covered as well as I would have liked. But are you familiar with the overall like conservative Christian reaction to Common
Yes.
Core?
And they have, first of all, never. Okay, so I've heard this in my career, in my profession,
Mhm.
in the education profession. It is hilarious. It is so funny how conservatives tend to portray Common Core in what it teaches, and especially with the kids that I worked with. Friends, your kids couldn't figure out fractions. They're not. I'm not worried about them learning critical race theory. We got to get to the basic stuff first. And they're failing. I live in Texas, which is one of the worst states in education in the US, and I worked specifically with children who were behind in school. So, yeah, I'm not especially I mean, I didn't teach history, but yeah, they're not doing the stuff that they think that they portray in the movies and stuff, right? They really aren't. Same thing with sex ed and stuff too. There is more outrage than what is actually being taught. Do certain schools like have a pretty radical curriculum? Absolutely. And does it happen? Sure. Very few and far in between. Especially if we're just talking about Common Core stuff, it's not covered in Common Core. A lot of the complaints that they have, which is very funny. Very funny that you think that that is what educators are caring about. They really aren't.
Yeah. And I don't even know that they know what they're worried about with Common Core. It's just like this general boogeyman. But what I thought was interesting, I think there probably are issues with it. I don't think it's necessarily perfect. But what I thought was funny is the movie talked as if it were this. The movie's really hysterical about the federal government trying to overreach, not let you homeschool. Along with that, try to institute this big, huge, monolithic thing that's meant to tell you that nothing's right or wrong, so they can oppress you. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, they portray Common Core as essentially the first national curriculum. They don't know that they say that explicitly, but they act like the idea of a national curriculum is this weird new thing that they're doing now in order to create this big, I don't know, make this big move for control. But number one, I don't know a lot about Common Core because I was out of teaching by the time it came around. But
Mm-hmm.
there have been a lot of different national curriculum guidelines. That's like nothing new at all. Like when I was
Right.
teaching, with every political shift in the winds, there was a new one, and it was really frustrating. But it's not anything new. Along with that, Common Core isn't even a federal or national
No.
mandate anyway.
No. It's
It's yeah,
state. And that's what's stupid. First, and I know this again firsthand because uh, working in education, but also because in Texas in particular, they have lowered their standards, and this is in part because testing has been so bad in the last couple of years. I genuinely the sentiment is they want to catch up, but instead of doing it the right way, it is just like, well, if we actually kept up with the standards that we have right now, we would be closing more schools and holding more kids back. So out of a prevention to do that, standards have changed, and schools are still struggling, by the way, with that. But yeah, no, it's there. There is, I mean, there is an obsession with that movie with like, I don't know, homeschool is going to be freeing you from something. I don't know what they'd be freeing you from. I mean, honestly, but yeah, I don't know. Ridiculous.
I was just blown away by the incredibly basic things that it got wrong on, like,
Yeah.
just they're either embarrassingly ignorant about things that any teacher should know, or anybody who's like even slightly familiar with education, or they're just pandering and they don't care because they know their audience isn't going to know. But
Yeah.
like the number, I
Specifically,
think,
I also worked with schools that were underfunded schools that were in danger of literally being, if you fail to pass kids, okay, at a certain threshold in the state of Texas, they will basically fire all of your staff and reshuffle the staff to make sure that you're meeting those standards. So part of what I did for a bit was help out at a school that was at risk of doing that. And again, like the worry is not about like kids learning about genders or whatever, or different narratives about slavery or whatever. Like the worry really is just like, again, making sure you know how to do multiplication right. Like it's not these other like weird crazy tangents just aren't. The average teacher is too stressed out to be thinking about the particulars of the details. And again, maybe I never worked in the history in particular, so there's going to be some differences there, but I guarantee you if they're stressed out as the rest of the teachers are at the schools that I help with, then it's not as big of a thing as you think it is. um,
yeah, I don't
they
think
they
they
still,
realize like teachers actually have things to do.
yeah.
They can't just like it's a stressful
I got to
job.
make sure to put my progressive spin on this. Like, no, I'm worried that I got to make sure they pass the fucking test. Like that's that's first and foremost. Okay, at least
and,
at the basic level. But yeah, you know,
And usually if a teacher's not doing a good job, it's because they're in survival mode, not because they have some insidious plan in mind.
yeah,
It's the typical bad teacher
seriously,
is like, here's a worksheet, here's a movie, and they're just trying to deal with the containing the class on a daily basis, which is, if especially if you're a new teacher, is a traumatically difficult experience.
yes,
Like, I've never been more daily shell shocked than when I was first a teacher. It's like, yeah.
yeah,
Like every single teacher, even like the really experienced ones who look like they have their act all together, they all talk about how their first year teaching, every day they cried in the parking lot after the end of the school day. Like it's
yes.
tough.
Because on top of managing a classroom of hellhounds, you also have paperwork to do. Every
Yeah.
day, if you're doing it right. It's usually every day. And you don't have time to do it while you're teaching. So when do you do it? Usually on your lunch break or after school. And you don't want to do those things every day, but you kind of have to. And it sucks. It's not great.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Teachers
Yeah,
have
oh
the
yeah,
whole
teachers have
summer
all
off.
summer off. They don't. They gotta. I mean, are they as busy as other people during the summer? Maybe not, right? But you still have work to do. And also, like, fuck, they deserve a summer off. Are you kidding me? Shit. Based on
When I
my
was a
experience.
when I was a teacher, I worked an 8 hour a day job all summer to like make up the shortfall in my wages, and that felt like a vacation. Like it
Yeah.
literally, when the end of the school year came and I could just go work a 9 to 5, it was like, I could let a
All right.
let my hair down and
And
just relax a little bit.
even if that was true, good. Let them fucking have the summer off. Why do we always have to work every day of our lives? Maybe we can have some time to ourselves and grow and develop and live with our families and just, I don't know, be. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
But it's not true. They do work during the summer. It's just different work.
This leads into another little point I have, and I'll cut off here pretty soon. We'll let
Mm.
this guy go pretty quick. But I'd mentioned something about how homeschools self-select and kind of produce artificially good-looking results. What we're talking about now brings up something I remember, a business owner was complaining about how schools aren't as efficient as his business is. And, if I could get in there and run it like a business, blah, 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 I'd straighten this all up. And the way they tell the story, I don't know if this is a real story or anything, but it still makes a good point. They said, well, I guess the guy made ice cream or anything. So he's like, if you get a bad shipment of berries or a bad shipment of milk, what do you do? He's like, oh, I turn that away. I'm not taking those low quality ingredients. I only use the best in mine. And he's like, exactly. You can do that if you get bad ingredients, but if we get kids in this school, we can't turn them away. We have to take the bruised kids, the traumatized kids, the low performing kids, and we have to make them all work.
And we have to set them in rooms with other kids that were also trying to help at the same time, and you only get an hour with every day. Yeah.
So that shows just another misunderstanding of education that a lot of people have. It's not the same as a lot of other businesses, and this is something I wish I touched on better in the movie. I tried to get in the video. I tried to get my words around how homeschools can kind of self-select for. I talked about how families have more interest in education, and that actually is a good advantage of homeschooling. If the families have an interest in education and can pull together, they can provide their kids with something really good. But one of the other things they self-select for is they're like that businessman who can pick and choose which products he wants to have. And I'd mentioned, I think they can't kick out their schools the way a Christian school can. Like a Christian school, a public school has to deal with persistent behavior problems, special ed issues, and things like that. They have to keep that kid in there, and they have to keep dealing with it no matter what, unless they do something so drastic they can be expelled, which is very difficult to do. A Christian school can literally kick you out because they don't like your attitude, or you don't praise Jesus enough or something. They have total leeway to weed out their population. Homeschool, I'd mentioned kind of flippantly, well, they can't kick their kids out, but in a way they kind of can by simply choosing whether or not to homeschool. So it's not even just selecting parents, like families who have parents who are better prepared to teach or whatever. It also selects for families who have kids who are able to handle that. So homeschool, even though they can't kick kids out, they can kick them out in the sense of just choosing not to homeschool. So it's one more avenue where if it's not working out for you, you can dump your difficult problem onto the public schools and they have to pick it up.
Yeah. And then, or charter schools come into the picture and take away, resources from public schools. So there's another angle to it too.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we could rant about education, I'm sure, for a long time, but I know it's a sore subject for you and me.
Black Cover has a couple good questions, and this is something I was kind of thinking about the same analogy too, even as I was saying it, and I think even back to when that person said it. Are they comparing kids to ingredients? Wouldn't it be the curriculum as analogous to ingredients? It can sound a little crass, and it's not a perfect analogy, but the point is there's all these different areas where you have to control different elements of your process. And even if they wouldn't necessarily be analogous to the ingredients, they're still a part of the process that you can't control. You can't weed things out.
Yep.
And so I think it is a good analogy in that you have to take what you can get and you have to make things work for those kids, which I think is the way it should be.
Right.
But then I feel like I do have extremely strong feelings when a private school or a homeschooler says, well, this is easy, we can do blah, blah, blah. Well, you don't have to deal with the kids no matter what. You're playing a totally different ball game.
Yes.
And it's not a fair comparison.
Yes. And as you mentioned, you don't deal with Model A students. You're going to deal with, I mean, especially in my case, but like even in an average school, right? You're going to be dealing with kids that have shit going on at home that you literally can't do anything about legally, right?
Yeah.
That you maybe give some advice to, or if you can spare a second, or at least try to be a good role model. And that's about as much as you can do, because after they fail so many times, they have to be, you can't ethically let a kid pass, but then some teachers do. And that's when you had stuff in my situation where I had to deal with kids that were passed up. I once had to work with a student who was in the 3rd grade, Zod, who couldn't recite the entire alphabet. It sounds
Oh, wow.
ridiculous. It's like, how do you let that kid pass? Because the teachers have other things they're going to do, and they're just going to put in the answers for them. Or when they sign, at the end of the day, they're the ones putting the grades in, and that happens, right? So, is that a failing of the public school system? Absolutely. But it's very complicated. There's a lot of socioeconomic factors involved. That
Yeah.
child in particular was part of a mixed race family, whose one side of the family couldn't speak English. So when they spent time with him, they talked to him in Spanish, and he had trouble understanding things in both English and Spanish sometimes. So it's there's lots of very complicated family situations you're dealing with sometimes with kids, and you're homeschooling. You're just dealing with 1, 2, 3, or let's be honest, sometimes it's a dozen kids, but still a tremendously smaller amount of kids than you are in a public school system. So,
Yeah.
there's
And
different.
I don't say all this to complain about the kids and the families.
Yeah.
It's just you're playing a much harder. You're basically doing the complete job if you're working in public schools. You can't skim off the easy tasks like other types of schools can. That's the only penalty.
And that might be an argument to say, well, Dan, doesn't that mean that homeschooling is a better option? I don't think homeschooling is a terrible option. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but it's not good for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
I don't mean to paint a rosy picture of public schools either. Sometimes you just need to pull your kids out. I know some atheists who have homeschooled.
I do too. And by the way, part of my career also worked with homeschooled kids that were failing their homeschool curriculum. So, they were not exempt from,
I did get comments from people who I think had legitimate feelings about me coming off as pretty negative toward homeschool. And I certainly didn't mean to do that. I think I qualified what I said pretty well, but there can be very legitimate reasons for homeschooling. When I said, if public schools are bad, do something about it. Don't just pull your kids out of school and homeschool. I don't mean that for individual people. Not everybody has the power to fix the whole system. And sometimes you just have to take care of your kids. I meant more in terms of the movie's message, which came off a lot like basically burn the public schools to the ground and,
Right.
So anyway.
Yeah. Zod, we're getting towards the end of tonight's broadcast, I think.
Yeah. Can I share one more thing, which I think makes a good closing thought?
Oh, yeah, of course.
And I'll try to make it quick. They talked about how, and I wish I'd said this, but they talked about how some of the kids needed to sleep with their parents because they were so nervous about the government coming and taking away. And Pastor Dave's like, no kid should have to deal with that. And I mentioned how the parents are contributing to it too. But then one thing I realized after the fact, I wish I'd said so bad, is this is a fictional problem. These are fictional kids and all that stuff. You're talking about how this fictional problem is creating trauma for fictional kids. The only real kids in this situation are ones who parents are having them watch this movie and are now getting all amped up and nervous about this fictional problem that doesn't even exist. So David A.R. White and PureFlix, you guys are the only ones making kids nervous over something they don't need to be afraid of at all. So
and
go fuck yourself.
No, seriously. Anytime I had to get the government involved, which was few and far in between, thankfully, it was because CPS had to be involved, right? Because abuse was happening. It wasn't because, this kid wasn't, I don't know what the fuck they think is going on, but no, those institutions exist because of fucking child abuse, not because, you're worried that you're going to say the wrong thing to your kid and the thought police are going to be cracking down at your door, or you're worried about spanking your kids. Guess what? CPS doesn't come if you spank your kids. That they've got way too much shit going on otherwise. But anyway.
And they don't come because you're teaching a Bible story or because there's no board certified teacher.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's not a thing. Yeah. Good for you for pointing that out as well. Because that is also a very common misconception for some reason in this country. That the government gives a shit. Most of the time they don't.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, on that delightful note,
you're not going to let me forget the mask, are you?
Well, I was actually, but you reminded me just now. So now I'm not. No, you have to wear the mask.
All right.
There he goes. That brave soul. Here's the thing, folks. He wanted to wear the mask because that's why he brought it up. He wouldn't have brought it up unless he didn't want to wear it. But don't tell him I said that. Okay.
I won't.
Nobody
All right.
cared who I was before I put on the mask.
Okay,
Damn it again.
ready? So here
Yeah.
we are. I got to get positioned all right. I'm going to have to take my earbud out so I won't hear you for a second.
Okay.
Actually, maybe I don't.
Perhaps he's
Try this.
wondering why somebody would shoot the man before throwing him out of a plane.
Wow.
Now just imagine this, but like, you key it out and it's staticky. So I don't believe in God. Now I just need to truck rhythmically and trail up at the end of each sentence awkwardly, and then
Can you hear me right now?
Yeah.
You look like remember when Spider-Man from the Raimi films was like going through the Mexican wrestler stage of his persona?
Oh, yeah.
That's what you look like. That's you put the thing over your face. I love that.
Well, thank you. That's what I was going for,
great.
really. All right. I guess we got to close this up. It's Dan's bedtime.
Oh yeah, it is my bedtime. But this was fun. I'm glad I'm back. Thank you to everybody who sent me well wishes. I'm not 100% yet, but I'm in a much better place than I was before, and I've missed doing this stuff and just having a good time and hanging out. So thanks again, Zod, for taking the reins on Zodza while I've been gone. But now it's back to Zadanza, full time, 24/7 Zadanza in your face, happening live every week, Thursdays at 9 Central. Let's go.
I'm having a lot of fun too. I appreciate you all being here, and as I watch the concurrent viewers, we have actually, I was wondering what it'd be like coming back after 2 weeks and Dan being away for a while and everything like that. But we've gotten like near 60 are registering at a time, which is pretty high for us.
Yeah.
Watching live. So thank you all for showing up. It's a lot of fun. I'm not really that concerned with like watching the numbers of viewers flex. I do watch it some, but we have a really cool community of people here.
And it's gone up. It has consistently been going up, which is awesome to see. So,
but before we went live, we saw a few of you in the chat already, and we're like, it feels like we're just among our friends again. Like we really, I don't bring you up as much as I would like to, but we are watching the comments. We bring them up when we can. And I legitimately feel like I'm coming to hang out with my friends when we're here, and it's a lot of fun. So I appreciate it.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Good stuff.
Dan, what is our outro line?
Oh, you're throwing it at me today.
I got to it first.
Oh, you sly dog, you. All right, what's today's outro? Spoiled milk doesn't taste good, so you shouldn't drink it.
I want you all to think about that all week.
Mm-hmm. That's the only reason, by the way. It's not really an outro, is it? That's just kind of a sentence. Be sure to tune in next week. Same Zod time, same Dan channel. Now that's an outro.
There you go. You all have a good night, and thanks for joining us. I really look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Voy a cantar esta canción con mucho cariño de mi corazón a la República Dominicana, la casa del merengue y la casa de la bachata. Voy a cantar esta canción con mucho cariño de mi corazón a la República Dominicana, la casa del merengue y la casa de la bachata. La casa del merengue. La casa de la bachata. Música, 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 te traigo música, 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 música de la República.